Hi, I'm a foreign princess and I need your help to access my fortune. Sounds like a scam? Today we learn how to protect ourselves. Then we get the inside story on insurance as a wealth strategy and which files to keep and which to shred. All this and more right now on The Wealthy Life. Welcome to The Wealthy Life. Are you worried about getting scammed out of your hard-earned money? Let's learn how to protect ourselves better. Joining us today is Pam McDonald from the Bc Securities Commission to share some tips on what to watch for and how to protect yourself. Pam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sybil. It's great to be here.
Tell me a little bit about the Bc Securities Commission.
Sure. The BC Securities Commission is the provincial government agency that is responsible for regulating the investment markets. And another important piece of our mandate is protecting investors. So we have a dual mandate. We regulate the markets by making rules for companies that issue securities and for firms and individuals that sell them. And if they don't comply with the rules that we make, we can hold them accountable.
You bring down the hammer.
We do.
Which is good.
It is.
And protecting the public.
Yes.
What do you protect the public from?
Well, we protect the public in lots of different ways. And one of the most important ways that we do that and that we put a lot of resources into is educating people. The best way that you can protect yourself is through education. Learn how to be an empowered investor. And the great thing about us is that we are not, as a government agency, trying to sell you anything. You know, we know that there's lots of conflicting information out there. So all we want is to provide you with a lot of unbiased information that will help you make smart investment decisions, have good investment outcomes, and a secure financial future.
Well, that's what we all want. And I'm just such a big advocate for investing, starting young, benefiting from the power of compounding. But people don't know where to go. And there, unfortunately, are a few bad apples out there.
Yes, there are.
And people need to watch out for that. So what do they watch for?
Yeah, investment fraud is the worst thing that we see in our business. It can be devastating to people. And so we want everybody in British Columbia, everybody in Canada to understand the warning signs of investment fraud. So we say there are 5 red flags. The first one is a potential investment that might come your way that is no risk, very high return, guaranteed.
Oh, sounds way too good to be true.
Well, I was just going to say that. That's what we say. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. There's risk to every type of investment. So be cautious of that. Secondly, it's something that we call FOMO, or the fear of missing out.
Oh, my son has that.
Yeah, a lot of young people do.
Maybe not with investing, but just fear of missing out of fun.
Yes, yeah. Well, it can be no fun if you lose your money to, an investment scam because of the fear of missing out on something. So, a scammer might come your way and say, everybody's getting rich while you're sitting on the sidelines, or this is just for a select few people. Any investment, or most investments in British Columbia, are available to all British Columbians. So that's FOMO.
Okay, so FOMO would be if you feel pressured to make a decision too quickly, limited opportunity, act now, got to decide right now or you're going to miss out.
Well, we actually call that sort of a pressure tactic.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's
another flag.
It's another flag, yeah. I mean, fraudsters are extremely skilled at using high pressure sales tactics to get you to invest in something. They'll say, ask questions later, sign on the dotted line now. FOMO is more about, somebody saying, your friends are making all this money, or I've got all these other clients and they're making money and you're not. So it's the fear of not getting, into something that everybody else is profiting from.
Okay. Which you don't really know if they're profiting from.
And you don't have any idea.
Okay.
You don't have any idea.
So those were a few red flags.
Yeah.
What are some of the other red flags?
2 more, I would say. An important one, and one that we see is something called the trust trap. So this is where somebody that you know well, it could be a family member, your best friend, a cousin, a colleague presents an investment opportunity to you. And because you trust them and you believe in them, you invest in it. And it could be an investment scam. And in fact, this trusted friend of yours may not even know it's an investment scam. So that's another one. And the last one is, your questions not being answered. So if you are being presented with an investment opportunity and somebody's not answering your questions or is bamboozling you with more sort of complicated information, don't invest. We always say the best investment you might make is the one you never make. So,
Right.
There's two things I think that are really important out of all of these things. One is make sure whoever you are getting your information from with respect to investments is registered, that they're a registered advisor and understand what kinds of investment products they are registered to sell you.
Yeah.
And finally, and I think this is super important, is if you think you're being scammed, you see a fraudulent investment offer, you see it, suspect it even, call the BC Securities Commission or contact us through inquiries, because the sooner we get information, the sooner we can act on it.
Oh, that's such great advice. And I think it never hurts to get a second opinion.
Absolutely.
So trust your gut instinct.
Yeah.
Don't be pressured into anything. Get some extra education.
Yep. Learn.
Get a second opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Protect yourself.
Protect yourself.
Pam, it's been fabulous having you with us today. Thank you for sharing all those tips with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And stay tuned. We'll cover insurance as a wealth strategy after the break.
The Wealthy Life is brought to you by investment dealer Raymond James. Life well planned. See what a Raymond James advisor can do for you.
Welcome back. Can life insurance be used as a wealth creation strategy? Wouldn't you like to know? Joining us today is insurance advisor Karen Orzer to show us how life insurance can increase your wealth. Well, Karen, I like the sounds of that. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sybil.
When it comes to life insurance, people buy it for many different reasons, and I think most people don't understand how to truly leverage it to build their wealth. Before we jump into that, what are some of the most common reasons people buy life insurance?
Well, I think the average person, when they think of life insurance, they think, I have kids, I have a mortgage, time to be an adult and get some life insurance. In this situation, it's completely different, and the structure is more set up as an asset versus something to protect your risk, like car insurance.
Okay, which people do need that kind of insurance as well. I mean, if you have a mortgage on your home, chances are you've got either mortgage insurance or a private life insurance policy to make sure it's paid off when you're gone. But let's talk a little bit then about this wealth creation strategy. Who is it suitable for and how does it work?
We're looking for clients that have maxed out their RSPs, their TFSAs, because really there's only a few fully tax sheltered environments, and that's, your home, your principal residence is tax sheltered, your TFSAs are tax sheltered, well, so is life insurance. So, but I also want these people to take advantage of those other vehicles such as RSPs and TFSAs. So I'd want those completely maxed out
first,
in a household.
Yeah, make sure you've got other things covered. You earlier said something about this is suitable for higher net worth individuals. What does that look like? What is higher net worth? Is that I've got $100,000, I've got $10 million?
It depends if the clients are 40 or 70. If somebody's in their 40, we'd be looking, at definitely a few $1 million, but at of net worth, and then a consistent higher income, over 300,000, 500,000 of household income. If we're looking at like a 70-year-old, we're not going to have that income anymore. We definitely need more of that estate value to make it make sense.
For those individuals that they've built up a nice nest egg, they've got high income, they're in the highest tax bracket, and they've already maxed out their RSP and their tax-free savings account, I guess some people would ask, aren't they wealthy enough?
Maybe, but wealth means different things to different people. And at the end of the day, it's really important that we structure our affairs. And if we can be a little bit more tax efficient, we should really look at those advantages. So the way this really works is let's say we have a couple, Mr. and Mrs. A, B, and C, and their net worth, let's say, is about $5 million. And I'm going to represent this as, this is your estate on a piece of paper. And what we can do is say, once Mr. and Mrs. ABC, and that could be a little bit loud, pass away, there's going to be quite a bit of taxes, terminal taxes on their death. So we can say that this part's completely gone and this is the amount that gets passed on to their children.
Okay, so hold on there. So creating wealth also benefits the next generation and the generation thereafter. That's why people may care about this strategy. I don't like that piece of paper being ripped in half.
No. So what you could do, I'm going to keep ripping a little bit, is we're going to find a contract with an insurance company, and it's going to cost us about this much. So we'll give this away to an insurance company in Canada that's willing to take the risk. And by doing that, we can pass now this much down to your heirs, your charities, whatever's important to you, versus this much. So Mr. and Mrs. Client, the choice is yours. And I realize it takes up cash flow, but that's the most simplest way I can explain permanent whole life insurance and why it becomes an asset.
That makes a lot of sense. So really, I see this more of a strategy, not to create wealth for yourself, but it's to create wealth to make a difference for other people later in life. And for those viewers watching that maybe don't even qualify for this strategy, maybe mom and dad do, maybe grandma and grandpa do. And maybe if they utilize this strategy, it may provide more for the family members and or charity.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do want to mention, though, just on one of those points, Sybil, is that it's not just for your heirs. You could access the cash inside those contracts at a later time if you need the money or just want to access it. So you can still access the money. Don't feel like it's all going away to the kids if you need it. You can. There are different ways to access cash values in life insurance contracts.
So it does give you that extra little bit of security, because who knows what you might need during your lifetime or what your care costs may be, and maybe you do need to tap into it so you can use it. Well, Karen, thank you so much for sharing that strategy with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks, Sybil.
When we return, learn how not to be a victim of cyber fraud.
The Wealthy Life is brought to you by investment dealer Raymond James. Life well planned. See what a Raymond James advisor can do for you.
Welcome back. Are you worried about cybersecurity and fraud? You should be. Joining us today is cybersecurity expert Andre Boyson to offer some easy to implement tips to protect yourself. Andre, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Sybil.
So what is cybersecurity? What does that mean?
It's a complicated term, but its meaning is quite simple. It's a method for services to tell what's the difference between what's real and what's fake when you're online.
So protecting things. It's like the security part's good and cyber just means cyberspace.
Is this real Sybil or fake Sybil?
Ooh, I'm real today. And what about fraud? How do they go together?
Fraud, the definition of fraud is using deception to gain a benefit of some kind. So that's the definition of it. So by definition, when you go to a service the first time, they've never met you before. So when you're online, how do they tell the difference between real Sybil and fake Sybil? It's a hard problem.
How do they?
Well, they ask you a lot of questions about your own life. This is the hard part. I'm Andre Boyson, and I can't pass the Andre Boyson tests. They ask me questions about my own life, and I don't know the answer. And so the challenge is the crooks have this information. They've garnered it off the dark web, and they get the answers perfect 100% every single time.
Oh my gosh, so the crooks know me better than I know myself.
Exactly. They don't have to remember anything, and you're trying to remember what kind of car did I drive in 2006.
Oh my gosh, that's scary. So what do they use this information for?
Ultimately, the goal is to take over your identity, to get a benefit for themselves and steal it in your name. And so it could be a line of credit, it could be signing up for a new service, getting a new cell phone on a plan, any of these types of things.
So how do I know if I've been compromised? How do I know if there's 3 or 4 other Sybils out there pretending to be me?
The short answer is it's hard to know for sure. But there are ways you can check. So there's a site out there called Have I Been Pawned? And if you Google that term, Have I Been Pawned? You can find out if your email address appears in any of these data breach databases, And that's just a clue. That's not going to allow you to remedy the situation, but at least you'll know. But here's an interesting thing. The site called Information is Beautiful catalogs how many data breaches have been out there. 8 billion identity records have been stolen in the last 2 years alone.
Whoa, 8 billion.
8 billion. When you consider half the world has no identity at all, that means the rest of us have been compromised twice.
Wow.
The crooks have your data. So you should just assume that's true and behave accordingly, which is be suspicious of things when you sign up for them and be watching for things that are trading in your name.
Okay, that is just scaring the daylights out of me. So what can I do to protect myself? Because when I think about it, if someone's pretending to be me, but it doesn't negatively impact me or my life, maybe it's not such a big deal. Well, it's still a big deal, but what if they use that to affect my credit rating or steal my money? Those are the things I'm worried about.
Yeah. So what the crooks do is use information they find off the dark web to try and do what's called a password reset on your accounts. So where did you go to high school? What was your favorite cat's name? Your best friend's name? And these types of things, which aren't really secrets at all. Anybody who knows the answer to these questions. So what they do then is they use that to take over your email account. And once they've got control of your email account, then they go to the bank and say, I forgot my password, which sends an email to your email account, and boom, they've got your bank account now. So
wow.
The first thing you want to do is make sure that you use a reputable email provider. Google, Apple, and the large ones all have good security features in place.
Yep.
And an important thing to add into this is something called 2FA, or two-step authentication. What it basically means is having your password alone is not enough to get into your account. You must also possess your cell phone. And that makes guarding your account that much easier.
You know, I've had that. And at first, when two-factor authentication came out, it was kind of a pain in the butt. Because I'm just trying to log into my banking and then I've got to wait for a text message and then I got to punch that in. But it's saving my bacon.
Yeah, nobody liked seatbelts when they came out, but we all recognize they're better than the alternative if you get in an accident. And that's the right way to think about 2FA.
Okay, so what else can people do to protect their email accounts or their information?
So a second strategy I have is I have 3 email accounts. One is for work, and then I have 2 personal accounts. My first email account is my primary account. It's the one I give to friends and family and services I really care about, like my bank and my government services. I use it for that alone. All the other services in my life where I'm going to sign up and I know they're going to send me marketing communications, a lot of stuff I don't want to read, go to my secondary account. So what's good about this is that that's the one that always shows up in the data breach records, my secondary account. But if I see a breach notice in that secondary account, I know it's fake and I don't care.
Okay.
So it allows takes all the noise out of it.
Well, you know, working in financial services, there is a number of fraud attempts we see on a regular basis where people will hack in to your email. They will use that email to send an email to a financial institution and request money.
I'm stuck in Bahamas.
I know.
Please send money.
But you know what's really scary is they actually know that you are in the Bahamas because they've read all your emails and they saw that you just went on a trip.
Exactly.
So they can even sound like you when emailing in. And that's why a lot of financial institutions, most if not all, require also a verbal consent before they'll transfer money, or that money can only go to the bank account that they have on file.
Yeah, so that's the right remedy for where we are now. But let me just pose an interesting question. Why do we have so many data breaches?
Why?
The answer is because crooks can make money from the data. So how do we stop the data breaches?
How?
The answer is that we've got to make the data worth 0 to the crooks.
Okay.
How do we make data worth 0 to the crooks? We make sure that simply possessing information about you is not enough to take over your identity.
Oh, great.
That's where we need to get to. That's the path that we're on, but we're not there yet.
Okay, so that simple task of having to verbally confirm the person is who they say they are is one small little step to help make that information worthless.
Exactly. But just an example of how this works in the real world, like when you take your credit card and you present your card at the terminal, the risk of fraud there is nearly 0. But when we go on the internet, the merchant didn't get to see your card and the risk is much higher. So here's the problem is that today, all of this identity, knowing the things about you, is very simple to do. But as soon as you have to possess something that only real Sybil has, like your phone, it shuts down the crooks. And so that's just one element of how we're going to make this safer and simpler at the same time.
Okay, so make sure you protect your emails. This is a lot of information to absorb. Andre, thank you for being on the show with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And up next, what documents do you need to keep and what can be shredded?
The Wealthy Life is brought to you by investment dealer Raymond James. Life well planned. See what a Raymond James advisor can do for you.
Welcome back. Thanks for your letters, emails, tweets, and messages. Today's question is from Barry. Dear Sybil, I have 40 years worth of documents in file boxes filling up my basement. I don't want to leave this cleanup burden to my children, but I'm afraid I might shred something important. What do I need to keep? What can I shred? Many thanks, Barry. Well, Barry, you definitely don't want to keep that for your kids to deal with, because that is not very nice. But it's overwhelming, and where do you start? I hate to tell you, there's no secret way to make that mess go away. You've got to attack it box by box. But if you do it bit by bit, day after day, before you know it, it'll be all clean and ready to go. So what can you keep versus what can you shred? Well, look at the documents that are required for either a legal or a tax purpose. So if it's an original copy of your will or a power of attorney, you're going to want to hold on to that. If it's title of a property, or if it's the purchase receipt of something you still own today, that when you sell, you need to show proof of purchase price for calculating tax, then you need to keep that document. Generally, CRA also requires you to keep your documents for at least 5, if not 7 years of all your tax returns and receipts. Now, the good news is you don't actually have to shred everything. You could scan it and save it into a file, an electronic copy. That way, if you do need access, you can find it. And it's a lot easier to find things online than it is searching through a basement full of boxes. So go through all of your documents, put them in separate piles, and anything that you know you can get a separate copy of from somewhere else, like your financial institution or your lawyer, don't keep it. You can get it when you need it. And that wraps up this edition of The Wealthy Life, helping you make smart financial decisions. Join the Wealthy Life Club and you'll get access to everything you need to live your version of the wealthy life.